Well, welcome to this episode of the Botanical Medicine Study Course with me, your host and instructor for the online class in all things botanical medicine. And I am Stephanie Georgieff. Welcome to all new viewers and a big thank you to all new and long-term subscribers. At the time of the posting of this video, the change in seasons has happened, and in some places with quite a bang, so to speak. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, we have just entered autumn. In traditional Chinese medicine, autumn is the season of metal in the five-element paradigm, and the organs that are dominated by this element, as well as the season, are the lung and large intestine. The taste of herbs and foods that nourish and heal this network is pungent. We also can know that as spicy. So I thought it would be fun to explore some of the herbs in this category. So for this week's Herb of the Week, we'll be exploring one of my favorite culinary herbs, cayenne. Now, the botanical name for cayenne pepper can be a bit confusing, as it sometimes has a generic family name of capsicum, which is Latin for all peppers, actually, from bell to chili to cayenne, and you name it. So some resources call this in a Latin binomial as capsicum annum, others capsicum minimum. So you can decide which it is you wish to call this very spicy gift from the Americas. The genus name capsicum derives from a Greek-based derivative of the Latin word capto, which means to grasp or to seize, in reference to the heat or pungency of the fruit. I've also read in other sources that the Greek derivative is to bite, which I actually think is more descriptive, but I'm not a student of Greek, so I can only defer to various sources for this information. Capsicum, whether you want to call it annum or minimum, is a fruiting plant, and those delicious peppers are considered a fruit, mainly because they have seeds inside of them. And this is from the Solanaceae or nightshade family, and it is native to the northern regions of South America and to southwestern North America, which I find kind of a complicated geographical statement, but let's just say it's Southwest United States, Mexico, Central America, etc. Now, the plant produces red berries with a very pungent or spicy taste. All of the capsicums are some of the oldest cultivated crops on Earth, with domestications dating back to about 6,000 years ago in regions of Mexico. The genus Capsicum has over 30 species, and cayenne pepper is, as it is commonly called, is one of those species. Now, the history of cayenne is really interesting. In ancient Mexico, cayenne was added to cacao drinks. Okay, so our hot chocolate and idea of chocolate candies is really a Western European thing. The native Mexicans, cacao was savory and spicy. And the Mexican sauce mole, which is one of my personal favorite Mexican sauces, is an interesting mixture of various peppers, chocolate, and other things. Mexican hot chocolate is made both with cayenne and cinnamon, which, as we know, the latter spice is from Asia. So modern Mexican food is quite global when you think of it. For those Chinese food aficionados, the Kung Pao chicken, which has loads of cayenne peppers, the peppers were introduced to that region by the Portuguese, who also introduced them to India. So all those amazing Indian, Chinese, and Korean foods and condiments, we can thank the Americans and the Portuguese for spreading the joy. All of this delicious cross-pollination of spices happened in the 1500s, as you could probably guess. In fact, some of the academics say the reason we call all the capsaicin species peppers is because the Western Europeans did not know what else to call it. And apparently asking Mexicans about their plant was not part of the program. But pepper, the Europeans felt that this fruit was spicy like the black pepper balls that were obtained from the Far East to season food. So they decided, well, spicy is spicy, so let's just call these things peppers. And there you have it. Now, while most of us consider capsicum or cayenne more of a culinary herb, it actually has a very long history of medicinal use. And it, as you can imagine, is a stimulant herb. It's a carminative, which means it's really good for the digestion. It's an anti-catarrhal, which means it helps with coughs and lots of icky stuff in your throat and lungs, helps you stop coughing. And it's a rubefacient. And a rubefacient is an action of an herb that when you rub the herb on something, it causes blood to flow to the area and turn red. And this sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it's actually very healing. And that is probably one of the most common uses for capsaicin externally. It also has very powerful antimicrobial properties, and it is a diaphoretic. And if any of you have bitten into a pepper or eaten some really hot sauce, there's this silly show I watch where celebrities get interviewed while eating hot sauce on hot wings, and they're always blowing their nose and their eyes are watering. But it's really good for anything that's a diaphoretic causes you to sweat. And it also opens up, blocked passages. So it's really good not to sniff, but to eat for blocked sinus passages. And a diaphoretic always helps to lower fevers. So this is one of those like cures like things. So if you have a fever, this is a really good thing to put in your soup. It also is an analgesic, which means it helps relieve pain. And it's a cardiac and circulatory system tonic. It helps lower blood fat and blood cholesterol. It also helps tonify capillaries and blood vessels. And because it's a diaphoretic, it actually helps relieve blood pressure, which is kind of counterintuitive. You would think something that hot would create, higher blood pressure, but it's very good. Also in increasing circulation. So if you're got cold hands and feet, this is a good thing to eat and all kinds of things. And it helps relieve pain. And it's also very good topically in a cream for psoriasis, acne. It improves metabolism. It's really good to take if you have heart disease. It's also really good for cancer, any type of sore throat, laryngitis, swollen joints. It also prevents viral and fungal infections. And it's good at fighting parasites. So it's really good to eat this wonderful thing on a regular basis. Now, thanks to the Portuguese, the Chinese started using cayenne. Now, you're not going to usually find cayenne in some of the older herbals. I looked and it wasn't there, but it's definitely in use and it's called la jiao. And the Chinese do use this liberally in their cooking. It's very good, especially the Szechuan type of cooking is usually quite pungent. It's called la jiao, and it's fructus capsaicin is the Latin. If you get a bag of this in a Chinese Chinese store, that's the name you'll see on there. And obviously, it's pungent and hot. It enters the spleen and heart meridians, and it promotes yang qi. It opens the channels and removes obstructions. So, like I said, it's really good for, stuffy colds. I always used to go to Chinese restaurants and get spicy food, and it was much better than using nasal spray to get my sinuses to open. But it's really good at warming the spleen and stomach. It dissipates cold, it stimulates the appetite, and it promotes digestion. It's just really good for all of those things. And the Chinese use it like Westerners do for most things. Now, it's also thanks to those lovely Portuguese spice merchants. It was introduced into India and it became part of the Ayurvedic corpus. And they call it Lao Murch. The Latin for that is also Fructus capsaicin. And surprise, surprise, it's hot and pungent. And according to Ayurvedic theory, this reduces vitiated kapha and dosha and vata dosha and increases pitta dosha. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Ayurvedic diagnosis, but that if you have vitiated kapha, this is your herb. And it's used also it's used in Western tradition and as well as traditional Chinese. It's used for pain relief, cardiovascular health. Now, something they do with this that I can't say do this or don't do this, I have never done this, but apparently it relieves bleeding gums. I'm sure it will be very stimulating if your gums are bleeding and you put some cayenne pepper powder on it, but it will stop the bleeding. And it's also used as an agent of detoxification. Now, what are the constituents of this incredibly tasty and healing herb? And like all red peppers, it doesn't matter if they're mild or medium hot or whatever, they are very rich in bioflavonoids, vitamin A, antioxidants such as C and E, really, really healthy. And anything that those vitamins do to the body, that's what this herb will do. And the big one is capsaicin. And capsaicin, there's your lovely biochemistry diagram. This has really interesting effects on the body. It is a pain reliever. It has analgesic properties. What it does, which I think is really interesting, it initially irritates nerve endings on the skin, and it basically desensitizes these nerve endings, which block pain signals. And it's temporary, thank goodness. It also depletes substance P, as in Peter, which is a natural chemical in the body that helps transmit pain signals. So it dismantles that. And this is the chemical reason why that capsaicin and cayenne pepper has been used for thousands of years as a topical pain reliever. And it's especially for sore and arthritic joints. It has antioxidant properties. That's what capsaicin does. It's anti-inflammatory. It also inhibits platelet aggregation. And I think this is an interesting way of looking at traditional Chinese medicine and also Western medicine, unblocking the channels, and also why you will find cayenne in a lot of cardiac herbal remedies. They'll throw in some cayenne there. So it stops any type of platelet aggregation, ROS scavenging activity, that's the antioxidants. And apoptosis is a fancy word for cancer cell growth, and that's what this prevents. There's also some interesting research that capsaicin can protect against diabetes. So if you are diabetic or you have type 2, add some to your food. Why not? Now, there are all kinds of supplements on the market. You can get cayenne pepper tincture, which I have personally never used personally or clinically. You can get it in capsules. It's usually in a gel cap, which is the powdered form. There also is a cream, and here's where your Latin comes in handy. Capsaicin, which has been an over-the-counter remedy forever for arthritis and joint and muscle pain. They use the capsaicin from cayenne pepper. So it's very warming and it's really good. Now, some people also like to use this to help with psoriasis. Apparently, this helps with the itching, the redness, and some people experience pain with psoriasis. I have never used that clinically. Thankfully, I don't have psoriasis. Never use that clinically. So if you have psoriasis and you want to try this out, try a little patch to make sure that it doesn't aggravate your condition. So these are the different ways. And again, you can find a lot of cardiac remedies, herbal cardiac remedies that will mix different herbs, let's say hawthorn, and then they'll put cayenne in there. So just read the label. If you have a sensitive digestion, you may not want to do that. So make sure you uh, you read those labels, know your Latin. Now, there are cautions, and most of this is just simple common sense. But if you eat too much, it may irritate the stomach. So if you're sensitive to spicy food or you have bleeding ulcers, I would not suggest doing this. Especially, and also if you have heartburn. And the side effect mainly is heartburn, and just not feeling burning in your mouth and your lips. Now, if you are using the fresh cayenne peppers and you're chopping them and you're not using gloves, the oil from these peppers does not wash off easily. So don't touch sensitive parts of your body or your eyes. Don't do that because it will really irritate the eyes. And some of the older herbals, they go, oh yeah, make a tea out of cayenne pepper and use it as an eye wash. Do not do that. I do not recommend doing that. You just need to be careful with that. Now, because cayenne is such a powerful herb, it can interact with several drugs. And obviously, because it helps stop blood platelet aggregation, you may not want to do this if you're on any type of blood thinner, because it may make you bleed longer. If you're on any type of ACE inhibitors and you know who you are, the other thing you don't want to do is with any type of antacid, either prescription or over the counter, such as Prilosec or Pepsid, anything like that. It's kind of wasting your money, basically. But it also interacts with aspirin, so you don't want to take it if you're taking aspirin. So just a word to the wise. I wouldn't use this medicinally with young children. And if you're going to use it topically, I would do a patch test, obviously. Now, cooking with cayenne is one of, in my opinion, the great pleasures of life. And when I lived in Albania, the communist dictator basically destroyed their regional cuisine, and their traditional cuisine is quite delicious, but the after effects was quite bland, and all of us from the United States were dying for pepper. And to me, you just have to have Tabasco sauce. That's kind of my personal ketchup. But there are all kinds of ways that you can cook with this. You can make your own sauce, your own condiments. I've listed some wonderful recipes um, for you to try out if you would like to do that. And in my opinion, this is probably a better way to incorporate cayenne in your diet and in your health regimen than taking more and more capsules. I don't really like taking any type of capsules, but if you want to eat and you can take spicy foods, that's a wonderful thing to incorporate in your diet. Now, growing cayenne is really fun. It's really a pretty plant, and it can grow in your garden. It can also grow as in a container garden inside your house, in your kitchen, all kinds of things. And I've listed a link to the complete chili pepper book, A Gardener's Guide to Choosing, Growing, and Preserving and Cooking. And his name is Dale Dewitt. And the reason I chose him is he's the Pope of peppers. But to me, whatever it is you're making in terms of a savory food, a little cayenne just, knocks it out of the park. And also the mixture of cayenne with sweet is also nice, as with mole and in Mexican hot chocolate, and with chocolate in general, it's quite delicious. So however you wish to incorporate this incredible herb in your regime, into your cuisine, into your garden, I hope you come to really appreciate and thank the Portuguese for spreading this incredible herb, and especially those wonderful ancient Mexican gardeners who cultivated so many delicious capsicums for us to enjoy. This is Stephanie Georgia saying thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me. Make sure to check out the links in the program notes. And until next time, be well.